Let's lighten the mood a little bit and bring in our first guest of the day. Blaine Fowler joins us on the Deseret First Credit Union Hotline, BYU national champion quarterback, dual threat analyst in college football and basketball. Blaine, welcome back to the show, my friend.
What's up, guys? I miss you guys.
We miss you.
Where are you at right now?
I'm in Santa Fe.
Why are you in Santa Fe?
Well, I had a game Saturday night for ESPN in Albuquerque in the pit. I had Northern Iowa. Very good program, by the way, against New Mexico. And then I had another game Wednesday in Albuquerque, and it's just been crazy. You know, when football and basketball are crossing over for me, it's like 6 games a week kind of stuff. So Brenda said, why don't we just stay down there? And we have a buddy that is the general manager of the El Dorado Hotel, which is one of the nicest hotels in Santa Fe. So we finished up. We went to church in Albuquerque on Sunday. We drove up to Santa Fe. We're chilling for a couple of days. We drive back down tomorrow. I do the game, and then we come home and get ready for the basketball game Friday night in Provo and the pre- and post-game show for the bowl game on Saturday.
So you're just taking it easy then?
But here's what's funny. I was going to come up here and not work. Oh, my goodness. That just never happens. I was sitting at my desk here in the hotel for 2 hours last night. It's a joke.
Boo.
So work never stops. That's the problem.
Blaine Fowler is a hardworking man, and taking time with us on BYU Sports Nation. We've been having a little fun today with our perfect BYU coaching staff projections, Blaine. Again, you can throw some logic out the window. Just kind of go with, if I were to say, okay, put together your perfect BYU coaching staff right now with the available candidates out there, who would you have?
Well, I like the one that you guys have been talking about. I mean, holy cow. I know this is not realistic, but why not Sarkisian? But can we add to that? So I want Kalani as the D coordinator. I want Sark as the O coordinator. I think Ken would be fantastic as the face of the program. And why don't we just bring Ty Detmer in as a quarterback coach while we're at it?
That's what I said. Let's just bring him in.
Can I have Chad Lewis as my tight end?
Sure.
Coach?
Yes.
Can I have that? So I want him there. I mean, if we're not talking in realities, there's some great folks I want in here. But if we're really going non-reality, then why don't I bring my boy Andy Reid back as the head coach?
Jason Shepard mentioned that earlier.
Yeah, I decided not to take him away from my Chiefs right now since we're on a 7-game winning streak. But beyond that, I love it.
Because I know Shep is loving the Chiefs. He always has loved the Chiefs. But I mean, if we're going to do that, can you imagine Andy Reid sitting in the home of a recruit? And just saying,
yes,
hey, listen,
please.
I came back to BYU because this is where I want to be. And, you know, I've coached NFC championship teams, and we got the Chiefs on a great run right now. I know what it takes to get you to the NFL better than anybody else that could recruit you right now, and you need to be here. Okay, I'll come.
Yeah, where do I sign, please? You want to be a walk-on? Okay.
Yeah, although, and I know that one's not realistic, you know, and I think Darrell Bevell. So if we brought Andy in, and why don't we get Bevell to be the offensive coordinator while we're at it? I
need my blue goggles to soak all of this.
Yeah,
you may need the big ones.
If we're going crazy, let's really go crazy. But we know that those two are way out there. They're too fixed in the National Football League, and that's a hard change to make. We've seen some guys go from college to the pros, but to go from the pros back to college, I don't know that a lot of those guys really want to get back involved in the recruiting game again. They don't have to deal with that. They can just deal with football. And so that's a stretch. Your other one's a stretch too, but not as big a stretch, you know, to get that group together. The very first day that the coaching search started, I was talking to Tom Homo, and I said, hey, here's all I want. I want Ken and Kalani. How about that? Tom said, boy, you don't ask for much, do you? And I go, no, just get it done, man. That's all I'm asking.
Hey, it all sounds good. It all sounds good with the blue goggles on, but let me take these off for a second, Blaine, and pull in the reality. Now, Ken Niumatalolo as a potential head coaching candidate is something that could happen. You said that you'd love to have him as the face of the program. What would make him the right guy for BYU?
He just have to want to be here and be all in. And I think if he does take this job, that's going to be the case. The hard thing I'm having to wrap my head around is why would he want it? I don't know if anybody's really talked about that. I think about the situation that he's in. If he stays, they're probably going to name the stadium after him back there. And he has no pressure. I mean, there's pressure because they want to win, but he's got that thing dialed in. They're going to win 7, 8, 9, 10 games every year that he's there. He knows exactly what he's doing. It's dialed in. They love him there. He can do no wrong. And the bottom line is, if he stays till he retires there, it's probably going to be Ken Niumatalolo Stadium. So that's what he's given up. He's given up the known to come out here. That would be hard for me to do if I were him. It would be really hard for me to do. And he likely has enough leverage. So I mentioned to you guys Saturday night, I did the Northern Iowa New Mexico game. Well, Northern Iowa's basketball coach has been just phenomenal. They've beaten 2 number ones in the last 3 years. They're upset of Kansas. They beat North Carolina this year, and they finally went to him, and he's been there 10 years, the winningest coach of all time there. And they just said, "Listen, we want to lock you up for the next 10 years." So we're going to do a 10-year contract. He's well paid, and he doesn't have an out clause. If he leaves, whoever takes him has to pay the full value of that contract. So he's not going anywhere. They locked him down. Why would Navy not do that for Ken? So I'm not. What I'm saying is I'm not sure why he would want to leave, and I know that Navy does not want him to leave, and so that's the thing I'm having a hard time wrapping my head around. Not whether or not he would be fantastic here, because I think we've already seen him as a visible face of a program, and as a recruiter, and he is a 10 in every aspect of the word. I just don't know how BYU convinces him to come unless he feels so compelled because of the draw from the church, and unless he feels like it's a calling. I don't know why he would come.
Well, let's look at what most people believe to be the alternative, and that's Kalani Sitake. There are a lot of reports coming out over the last 24 hours saying that Kalani Sitake is interviewing with BYU today for the job. Make the case for why Kalani Sitake should be the guy taking over.
So, if we're using the same, I'm not saying that Ken shouldn't be the guy. I'm saying it's going to be hard to convince him to be the guy. That's what I'm saying about that. And Ken's advantage is that he's been a head coach. He knows how to run a program. He knows all of that. Kalani hasn't done all that, but Kalani's advantage is he played here. This is where he wants to be. When he got in coaching, I think his mindset was, wow, wouldn't it be fantastic if my coaching career took me and elevated me to the point where I could come back home and be the guy here? And the huge advantage he brings to BYU is he is well known as, if not the best, one of the best recruiters in the Western United States of college athletes, period. And he's recruited against Pac-12 schools when he wasn't in the Pac-12 and gotten big-time talent. He's taken lots of kids from BYU. Now in the Pac-12, he's recruited and competed at Oregon State to take some big-name recruits away from Oregon and away from Washington and away from Cal and those schools. So he's a very big-time proven commodity in recruiting. And what's more important for a head coach than recruiting? To me, it is the number one job of a head coach. Yeah, he's got to set the direction of the program. Does he need to be a great X's and O's guy? So he needs to know enough to coordinate what the coaches are doing, but he can hire a great offensive coordinator and a great defensive coordinator. To me, it comes down to talent, and if you're a fantastic recruiter, then you're going to load things up and you will compete if you have the right assistants. That's what he brings, and I think he genuinely wants to be here. So my feeling is if BYU can't get Ken, so if the things that we talked about with Ken are just too much to overcome, which they may be, and they want Kalani, I think Kalani will come just because this is where he's always wanted to be.
Blaine, how much weight do you think the fact that he's a BYU guy carries? How much weight do you think it carries right now, and how much should it carry in this decision?
Well, it's a hard thing because you have these two lines of thinking. One is, are you actually a BYU guy? So did you go to school there? Do you have a coaching history there? Well, Bronco didn't have any of that. And so I don't know that you necessarily have to do that. Ken's tie is not that he played. Ken played at Hawaii, and he coached at UNLV, and he's been at Navy, among other places. But his tie, there's always that tie to the LDS Church. And so, there's Ken's tie. And to me, that's enough of a tie, as long as there's a commitment to the university and there's a reason to be there. And frankly, that's the only reason I can think why Ken would come. I mean, am I out of my mind for thinking that? Does he have an unbelievable situation back there?
Oh, absolutely. He's 10-2. They're ranked.
Yeah. So when I hear they're going after him, I'm thinking, fantastic. He's an unbelievable individual. I think he would be really, really good at it. But I keep saying to myself, but why would he want to come? I think it's going to be a hard sail to him unless he feels compelled by his church ties. And those church ties are enough to tie him to BYU. For Kalani, he's overwhelmingly tied to BYU. Because he's just got history here. This is where he played. His dad told me a story that I was like, oh, man, I already like Kalani. This makes me like him even more. It was a game in Provo, and it was against Utah. And after the game, there was a couple of Utah players that were like kind of stomping on the Y emblem in the middle of the field. And Kalani went over to him and kind of pulled him off and said, hey, first of all, we respect all of our opponents. Secondly, that is my alma mater. You don't stomp on the emblem of my alma mater. Get off of there.
Ooh,
and so
nice.
even though he was at the U and loyal to the university, he still respects the ties of where he was brought up and where he played. And I thought, wow, I already like Kalani, but that's a story that Tom, his dad, told me. And I thought, oh man, that you know what, he could come back here if he feels that way, if he still has that tremendous respect and love for where he played, he'd be a great fit here.
BYUtv dual threat analyst Blaine Fowler with us on BYU Sports Nation. It's incredible to me, Blaine, that BYU Utah in the Vegas Bowl is the secondary headline right now. But it is because of the head coaching search. So speaking of the game, which happens in 4 days, what kind of BYU team do you expect to show up given the fluctuating situation with all the coaching changes?
You know, I think it's really good that it's BYU and Utah because I do believe that Utah coming in a little bit wounded without their number one weapon would be a little bit down, and they wanted to be in a bigger bowl than that. BYU coming in with all of the distractions of the coaches leaving and the entire offensive staff would come in a little bit flat. But because it's BYU-Utah, I don't think we'll see any of that at all. I think this game will be played with an unbelievable amount of passion and energy. It'll be as if there wasn't even a coaching change for BYU, and for Utah, it will be as if Booker's playing. So I'm really glad it's BYU-Utah because I think otherwise these two teams would come in here with some problems in the back of their minds that would affect the way they play. I think all of this is going to have zero impact simply because it's BYU-Utah.
Blaine, great stuff. You can hear Blaine and Dave McCann on the call for BYU basketball hosting Central Michigan on Friday night, and then watch them on Countdown to Kickoff on Saturday live at 12:30 p.m. Mountain Time. I'm trying to get all these because we're going to be in Vegas, trying to get Eastern Time straight. Yeah, so the game is at 12:30 Pacific Time, and Countdown to Kickoff is at 12:30 Mountain Time.
I wish we could be two places at one time because I would love to be down there with you for that one live. But we'll be in the studio. And we'll be going back and forth with you, Spencer, down in Vegas. I'm sure you'll take us right into the stadium like you always do.
You got it, man. Thanks, Blaine.
Thanks, Blaine.
All right, guys. Talk to you later.